Hey everyone, today I'm taking a look at the Vale of Eternity, which is a 2 to 4 player card engine building style game designed by Eric Hong and published by Mandu Games and Renegade Games. This game takes around 40 minutes to play on average. Now, before I get started on my review of the Vale of Eternity, I want to give a shout out to the show's sponsor, KIENDA.co.uk, who are my go-to online retailer, and if you use the link in the show notes or the QR code, then you can get 5% off your first order. Okay, so the setup for the Vale of Eternity is going to look like this. And before I get started, I should say that the objective of the game is to be the first player to reach 60 points, or if at the end of the 10th round, if it goes that far, the player with the most victory points will be the winner. So you have the score track here as well as the round track. Each player is going to get given 3 markers, 1 for their score track, 2 to show which cards they have reserved for the current round. You've got a bunch of these currency tokens, which come in 3 different denominations, which is a really important factor of the game, which we'll talk about shortly, as well as the card display here. So each round there's going to be a number of cards drawn equal to the number of players times 2. So in this example, we have 6 cards out there because it is a 3-player game. And you can see that each of these cards come in a different suit or kind of family of cards. So you've got the fire ones, the dragon ones, the wind ones, the water ones, and these kind of mountain ones as well. And each round they're going to go into their designated spot on this wheel. So you can see the fire ones go next to the fire slot like so. Let's take a look at the card anatomy. So in the top left-hand corner here, you have that family of cards. Below that is going to be the currency you need in order to pay for that card, to play it in front of you. So in this example, it would be 10. This here is just the name of the creature, which has no real relevance to the gameplay. And below that, you have the ability of that specific character card. The abilities come in 3 different types. So you have the instant abilities like this one here, this Sand Giant, where as soon as I played this card, I would earn 4 points for each mountain card in my display or in my area. The other 2 types of cards are the ones with these sand timers on, which will trigger at the end of each round. So in this example, Odin would give me what says if you have less than 6 cards in your hand, then you'll earn 2 points. Otherwise, you earn a 6 coin. And the other type of ability you can have are these kind of infinite abilities, which will be permanently active. So in the case of this water giant, the values of my 3 coins and my 6 coins are always increased by 1, making them a 4 and a 7 respectively. So how does the gameplay actually work? So after you have set up the display of cards for the current round, in player order, starting with the first player, in this example the black player here, they are going to choose which one of these cards to reserve. So without thinking too much, I might say, look, I want this this lava giant. Then I'll go to the next player. They might say, I want the water giant. The next player might say, I want the sand giant. And then in snaking order, so starting with the last player, you're going to go back to the first player. So it'll be basically 1, 2, 3, and then 3, 2, 1, just to make sure that the last player isn't at too much of a disadvantage. So maybe the third player will go this one, the second player will go this one, and then the first player will go to this one. So after you have reserved your cards for the round, you are going to go into the action phase, and in player order you can take as many actions as you want, and there are only 4 possible actions you can take, and to be honest, one of them isn't very often used. So the first of which is to take one of the cards that you reserved into your hand. So I could just take this lava giant, for example, put it into my hand like so. This card isn't played yet, but it does mean it is secured for me and ready to be played later. And probably, as you can imagine, the next action you can take is to play the card into your area to make sure that card is active for you. Of course, to do that, you're going to have to pay currency equal to the value here or more, bearing in mind that you'll never get change when you pay for a card. And then, of course, if you've got an instant ability, you'll trigger that ability. And something that's important to say is that you can only ever have a number of cards active in front of you equal or less than the current round. So in the first round, you can only have 1 card in front of you, but by the 10th round, you can have 10 cards in your tableau. Now, the third action you can take is to sell the card that you have reserved. So let's just say, I wanted to sell this this Odin card. I was going to take money from the bank equal to the figure associated to that particular card type. So again, I'll discard this this Odin card. I'll get a 3 token as well as a 1 token, again abiding by that restriction that you can only ever have up to 4 tokens into your hand. And the final action you can take is to basically discard a card from your existing tableau, which I have none here, and to do that you are going to have to pay currency equal to the current round. And because you are restricted by the amount of cards you can have in front of you, you may want to do that to play other cards. So after each player has taken as many of those actions as they want in any order that they want, again in player order, you are going to resolve all of your end of round abilities in any order that you want to try and extract as many points as you can and to exploit those abilities. After that, the first player marker is going to move on to the next player. The round token is going to move to the next round, and you're going to go again. And essentially that's how the game works. You're going to keep on doing that until somebody reaches 60 points or until the end of the 10th round. Okay, so let's share some thoughts on the Vale of Eternity. And you can probably tell from the overview that the game is ultra simple. All the gameplay is, however, inbuilt into the cards themselves. And to be honest, in a quick video like this, I can't really demonstrate the synergies between these cards, but you'll have to take my word for it that it is quite remarkable how these cards interact with each other and the different paths to victory that you can try to take. So I pulled a few cards here out, not particular ones, just to show you some examples of the abilities on these cards. So you have this Ifrit card here that says when you play it, you get 1 point for each card in your area. So maybe it's a nice one to play on the 10th round to get a nice chunk of 10 points. The Triton card here says that whenever you tame a blue card, you will earn 2-3 coins, which is really nice, just passive income there. The Hippogriff says that when I play it, I'll draw a card, and from then on, all of my win cards are decreased by 2 in value, making them a lot more affordable to play. This Freya card says that I'll earn 1 point for each card with an end of round ability in my area. The Harpy says that if the number of cards in my hand is equal to the same as the number of cards in my area, then I'll earn 3 points. The Salamander, very cheap to play. It says you'll earn 1 point and 1 currency at the end of every round. The Imp, again, very cheap. It'll earn you 2 currency instantly, and each time you at the end of the round, you'll take it back into your hand, meaning that you can play it again. So that's what this recover keyword means. And one of my favourite ones, which I've actually not used yet, is called Hestia, where it says you can keep 2 more stones in your hand. And again, I am really scratching the surface of the cards here. Some of the combos that I've seen are quite remarkable and surprisingly simple in their own right. And as you can imagine, because you can resolve these cards in the order that you want, some of the combos and the chain reactions you can do are really impressive, and you can take some very satisfying turns. Some of the cards are very expensive, but of course will come with stronger abilities, like this Jirin card here that says you'll earn 2 points for each card in your area, so much like the other one, but a lot cheaper. And again, tons of different strategies you can take and different pathways you can take as well. And expanding on from that, I love the way that each card in this deck here has its use under the right scenario or under the right circumstances. And because, of course, these cards are drip-fed to you, and you can't really go for the same approach each time you play because the cards that you're looking for might not come out. So you are always reacting to what is out there, trying to create the best combos with what is available. And each time you'll find new combos to exploit. And because each card is kind of useful in its own scenarios and circumstances, it does make this initial draft really tense, and the turn angst does come through nicely because you want to reserve the cards that you want for you, but you need to bear in mind that sometimes you may want to block cards that other players might want because that's going to be the perfect card for their particular setup. But at the same time, you need to be making sure that you have a steady income of currency, because without the currency, you cannot play the cards, of course. But in order to play the better cards, you're going to have to give up some of the better cards by discarding them for the actual currency themselves and taking them out of the fold. So again, you can't really take or play the same cards each game because a lot of them will be discarded for money. So that really does create that nice tension, that kind of polarizing mechanism of what do I get rid of, what do I keep, do I want to stockpile cards into my hand to play them later, and so on. So yeah, lots of tough choices to make in a simple system here. I love how consistent the gameplay is here. There is pretty much no fiddly rules or kind of exceptions to the rules. The cards are crystal clear in how they work, and I'm always impressed about how games like this can add so much game into such a simple kind of structure. Simply draft your cards, take those actions, and then pretty much resolve the cards. But again, there are so many choices within the choices here, because even when you build up your tableau, it can become a bit of an efficiency puzzle in order, or to work out the order in which to resolve those cards to squeeze every possible point out of them. In the same aspect, the order in which you resolve the cards is important, because some cards might give you currency back, and you don't want to be using those cards when you already have your 4 currency tokens into your hand. So sometimes you might want to play cards before you play other cards, or buy cards before you play other cards, so that you can restock your coffers of money to make sure that you're being as efficient as possible. Something else I love about this game is how you are restricted by the amount of cards you can play by the current round. It does mean that you are not completely overwhelmed by the amount of information given to you at any time, and you are drip-fed that information. And it makes it a lot more easier to keep tabs on your engine, because each time you're only adding 1 more card to your tableau. It makes it a lot easier to introduce it to new gamers, and they're not going to be overwhelmed by that information. So yeah, I love games that do that. It doesn't throw too much at you too soon, and the kind of crescendo really does build up. So in terms of those simplistic mechanisms, but the choices that you have to make within those mechanisms, I think this game has done an exceptional job to keep it simple, but still keep it very engaging, and again, offer you those tough decisions to make. The engagement of the game is just brilliant throughout, because again, you are constantly increasing on your engine. You're always going to have your head down trying to map out which cards are best for you. It's going to be frustrating, and the turn angst is going to come through when people are taking the cards that you wanted. So yeah, lots of good player interaction here. There is there are a few take that cards in the deck that lets you kind of force people to discard certain cards in their tableau, or you can even use them on yourself, I believe. So that might rub people the wrong way sometimes, but generally they're the most powerful cards that do that. So they're quite expensive, so you are going to have to pay for that privilege. I think the replayability here is strong. You're always going to see new combos you try and work out and exploit. I would, however, love to see in the future expansion content, especially if they can keep it as tight and refined as this current deck of cards is. Now, I'm not sure how they would do that, and I wouldn't even begin to imagine how to do that, but if they could keep on drip feeding or feeding new content into this simple structure without convoluting it at all, and keeping true to that simple structure, then the sky really is the limit with this one, because again, it has all those hallmarks to be an evergreen almost, because of how simple it is to jump into, but still having that depth of gameplay. But I think they would really miss out if they did end up convoluting the gameplay just so they can get more cards and more content into this one. But again, if they can keep it true to the current system, then I would be absolutely delighted to see more content here, more combos, and to see what else they could do. The game generally scales well. It is a 2 to 4 player game. Of course, with a 4-player game, it's going to be a little bit longer to get to your turn, especially if you are the first player, because you're going to have to wait for that snaking drafting order, for example. And it might be a little bit more out of your hands. Now, I'm quite fortunate that I mostly play games with 2 or 3 players. And for me, those are the sweet spots for this game in particular. I wouldn't hesitate to play it with 4 players, but I think definitely that 2 to 3 player spot is ideal, because you're going to be a bit more involved and not have to wait to take your turn. And the production for this game is pretty excellent, nice and bright. I could not be happier with the card anatomy and the way everything is worded. It is pretty much immaculate. I can't think of any criticism at all about it. The art is going to be a little bit jarring to some people. It does have this little cartoony aesthetic to it. I actually quite like it. I found it a little bit garish at first, but the more I play it, the more I do like this artwork. And of course, there's so much they could do with it. The player pieces are really nice. You've got these chunky wooden kind of claim markers. So yeah, all in all, I think it's a fantastic package, and can't criticize the production at all. Okay, so let's share some final thoughts on the Vale of Eternity. And I'm going to jump straight in and say this game is absolutely phenomenal. I'm actually mind blown about how much fun this game is. I'm just always so impressed when a game or designer manages to add so much in to such a simple structure of a game. Just draft those cards and then use those cards' ability. And I love that drip feeding of only being able to play cards equal to the current round, and the potential of combos between these cards is just fascinating. Now, they all do seem to have a different feel to the different families. Like, for example, the blues seem to work a lot off these 3 tokens. And yeah, it's just, the sky really is the limit to this game, as long as they keep on adding content to it. Now, don't get me wrong, I think it's a wonderfully self-contained game here, but I think maybe some people want more to come from it in the future, just to get that longevity and replayability out of it, especially if you have a smaller collection. But it's very rare that I'll play games now and I'll just stop in my tracks and think, my God, is this game impressive? And this game did that for me. You know, me and my family play a lot of games. And after just a couple of rounds in our first game here, we just stopped and looked at each other and went, wow, this game is special. There's just something about it. So for me, I think this is one of the best games, probably a top 3 game, maybe even a number 1 game of 2023. I am going to give it a little bit more time before I make that bold statement, but all I could say is, if you like your small little card games, your clever card games with combos and synergies, little tableau building, engine building, this game is amongst the best that I've played. I love this currency system. I pretty much love everything about this game. I think it is quite remarkable. So, goes without saying, this game is going to get a chairman's commendation, and I just cannot wait to play more and more of this, and can't wait to see what the future holds for the Vale of Eternity.